Good morning, Alexi Kruiz. What a fantastic name. Welcome to
Thank
my
you.
podcast, One for the Road. How are you today?
Thank you so much. So good. Really, really grateful to be here. So grateful to be talking to you. And yeah, it's been a crazy one. And I think even just chatting to you just then this morning has really we do need a bit of grounding every once in a while, don't we, in
Yeah,
this crazy world?
we really do. And quite often I slow myself down because I'm a real sort of doer. Always roll my sleeves up and think, right, I've got a crack on. And sometimes you just need to sit there with a cup of tea and look out the window, look at nature, close your
Yeah.
eyes for a minute and just be grateful. And some people go, "Oh, it's a bit wanky having a gratitude list," but sometimes you just need to remind yourself, what we have got and not what we haven't. Could be health, it could be where you live. I know you've got the keys to a new place to live,
Yeah.
family, love. It's really important to just check in every now and again. And we just did that, didn't we, for a minute or two, just slow the world down a little bit and reflect on where we are today. And
So
I think it's
helpful.
important. Yeah. So
I think as well, partially because I've obviously decided to do this right in the middle of moving house because
yeah,
that is my personality type.
yeah,
Like you said, being a doer, it's like I just want to do everything all at once,
yeah,
really, really well, or just chaos.
yeah.
Chaos for some reason, thrive.
Well, the thing is, though, Alexi, we when we're drinking and that, we live our everyday life in chaos, right? And we
Yeah,
get used to it. And this is why sometimes sobriety can look a little bit boring
yeah.
because I look at it like a gentle heartbeat ticking along like that in sobriety. But when we're drinking, it's either really up or really down.
Totally.
Yeah,
And people choose that, don't they?
yeah.
You can stay stuck in that loop of wanting the highs and lows. And actually, I think the biggest thing, actually, and even choosing love, and love doesn't have to be chaotic. Self love doesn't have to be chaotic,
Yeah,
you know?
it's true. And we kind of choose what we already know, right? And this is why people stay stuck in toxic relationships or jobs that they're not valued in or,
Mm,
places you don't want to live. And we have to step outside our comfort zone sometimes and go, do you know what? Is this really working for me? I need to push out of it, you know?
yeah. Oh, and the moving house is doing that to me so much. I'm
Ah,
like
we can talk
shedding
about
the
that
past.
later.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. A new beginning. So, as you already know, we start at the beginning. So if you could just tell us what it was like for you growing up and go from there.
Right. So I I'm from something which I only learned this terminology recently, and it's third culture. So I grew up in a third culture house, and that's growing up in the UK, but having parents not from the country. So my mum is a Cypriot refugee, and my dad is Dutch. So he's from the Netherlands, but moved around a lot. Both of them 100% are on the spectrum. Lovely people, but mum high frequency, dad very low frequency. And as a kid, I just was this jumping bean of chaos, ADHD. I used to pretend I was deaf at school because I didn't want to do like maths. I couldn't read or read the time for a really long time as well. It was like that concentrating thing. I just didn't have it in me to sit still. And I remember one of the sweet things I used to love doing was like face painting or marrying the neighbor who was like an older girl. It was bizarre. Like I used to draw a moustache on and be like, we're just gonna get married and we do flowers. And so I was always in a fantasy land of like creativity and like performance. And I think part of that was because I just knew my parents weren't happy. I just knew it. They would argue. My brother came along. I think really my dad, I think, they weren't allowed to live together culturally unless they got married. So it was all a bit kind of tension There
Mm.
was a lot of love there, but it was like a lot of tension. And my mum is spicy. Like the best way to explain her, she's really camp actually. She's like really drama, camp, and tiny. And she say she'll make herself a cup of tea, and I'll go, "Where's my tea?" She'll go, "I made you make your own," but laugh about it.
Oh,
Take a little toke of her cigarette. But she was quite difficult as a mum because she wanted everything to be amazing for us because she had stayed in the country alone and her family had left. So I think she struggled in building a family unit, especially with like my dad, who wasn't really interested. So he left a lot. And then she ended up being a nanny for a family. And this is when I first remember alcohol and drugs. Oh my God. And I never thought about this until me and mum went for dinner actually recently. We had a huge fallout, which I'll explain about. The tattoos did not click with her beliefs of what a perfect daughter was meant to look like anyway. So we're sitting there and I'm like, whatever happened to these people in your life? So she basically ends up being a nanny for this family where the mum is dying. We end up like becoming part of this family. It's a guy and three kids, me, my brother, my mum. He buys a house near my mum's house. They're obviously together. My dad's somewhere, God knows what, doing whatever. And they're all drinking, smoking weed. Like I have no idea what else, and I just thought it was hilarious. Like we all thought that they were hilarious. It was just like, oh, the parents are being funny. Like there was this funniness about it. And thinking about it now, it was funny to me because they weren't arguing. Whereas my parents, I grew up seeing them arguing. So at least everyone was having a good time. But now looking back, it's like there was obviously like ups and downs in that. One day we had like a routine where she would pick up the us and then pick up the other kids, then we go to the house. One day we get picked up and she just says, "We're not picking them up. You're never going to see them again. It's over." And that just broke my heart. I must have been maybe 7. My brother was 4. And it was just over like that. This new family I thought we had, and they lived up the road. And my dad was friends with the dad, which was also really confusing. I don't know what was going on there. And everything just got really weird at that point. And then I think mum went into like a bit of a depression situation. But then things started getting like, I just remember my eardrums bursting a lot. And I think it's because there was arguments. And I think, is it the body keeps the score where
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I feel like partially I must have burst my own eardrums. So I think I've had three on this side, 2 on this side. And now I actually have like even more sensitive hearing. But I grew up a lot with both parents saying to me, "You're too emotional, you're too messy, you're too chaos. Stop acting like the boys, stop being, all this." And my I think this was like when it crossed over, is my grandma had come over to like help, and my brother gets hit by a car. He goes to hospital. We go to church to pray for my brother, and the house gets burnt down while we're at church.
What?
So suddenly, honestly, this is like, you can't make this stuff up. Suddenly we're homeless, my brother's in a wheelchair, my dad then just gets another flat, so that's suddenly the divorce. And I remember this so clearly as a kid. And this is me, like, I guess I found humor, or I had to find something. I just saw this stick outside the house and I was like, it's all because of this cursed stick. And I like threw this stick, and was just like, flip, like, how is this happening? And then I was going to go to secondary school. I've just realized I've missed a point out. Just before then as well, my brother had tripped me out and I'd knocked my front teeth out. So I had no I had chipped front teeth. the house burnt down. My brother's in a wheelchair. We move in with the family who was around the day the accident happened, who was a born again Christian family. And we live with her while she's going through a divorce. My mum drinks and smokes. She drinks. There's another thing I think where I see drinking as coping
Mm.
and community potentially, you know. And I go to secondary school and I found it really difficult making friends anyway. In primary school, I was a loner and I used to build these little gardens on my own and people would trample them and then I'd build them again. And to the point where like the school took me on a trip to plant a tree. So there's a tree by a windmill that I planted, which I need to go visit one day. Um, Secondary school, similar thing. I just couldn't connect to people so well. And when I did, it always felt a bit chaotic. And actually, again, in primary school, I had a best friend and I got banned from going to her house because I had a bob cut and I cut her ponytail off. And I, wild, you know. And I wonder if this is like a segue to me being a hairdresser. Like I love big changes and I love like hairdressing and it's all part of the gardening-y sort of thing, my hyper focus. I digress. So I went to secondary school and I was so embarrassed, I think, of my family situation, you know, we're like homeless. I'm, you know, supposed to be staying in a room with my mum, but I couldn't because she smelt like smoke or it all like was up later than me. I don't know. I just needed my own space really. And it's with a lot of boys and the family before was with a lot of boys, which I really connected with, but I just never got to like have softness and calm, even if I wanted to. So I think I played up to it all the time. And then after the house, we get our home back, and mum just lives in boxes. She lives in boxes. She drinks. She can't cope. You know, she feels totally alone. I think she doesn't want to tell her family abroad. By this point, my dad's met someone, and she's an addict, so she's drinking a lot. Um, and he never really did, which is really interesting. But then my mum kicks me out because I start getting tattoos at 15, of course. Why not? Because I think there was almost peace and quiet, and I disassociated while getting tattoos because I was at least choosing the chaos. I was choosing the pain. And so I get kicked out. I have no shoes on, even. She's like driving, chasing after me. And I'm like ringing my dad to come and get me. And I end up leaving my brother, which I really regret that because it took a little while for him to trust humans, you know, because me, his like kind of caregiver in the chaos, left him. And I go to dad's. And at this point, it's a free for all. My stepmom is like, oh, let her do what she wants. My dad's like, you know, let her do what she wants. He's got like no, just this like, just he's loving, but actually with no boundaries in that sense. So it didn't teach me the things that I needed because I think he didn't want to grow up either. He's like a big kid. So I end up going out and just meeting I fail my GCSEs. I'm drinking in graveyards. I'm hanging out with like older people that are carrying like, there's like some goths that had knives. There was like fights between like different subcultures. Like we don't really get that anymore now. Like everyone's trendy, you know, being goth is trendy. But like when I had tattoos, I was seen as a freak. I had like red and black striped eyebrows and 3 lip piercings. I was seen as like, you know, people would say things in when I used to visit my family in Cyprus, like they would say, oh, her poor mother, her poor mother. And I think it was just like escapism and just trying to find self in having to be absorbed in so much else, like everyone else's problems or drama or like this life that I don't know, as a kid, you're it wasn't my responsibility to like sort these things. And I think I just went with the flow and chaos felt so familiar and safe that I just ended up like building this mask, which was this crazy little wacky, I felt free. And I remember stealing my mum's cigarettes and giving it to people and taking my dad's tobacco. And it was just, secondary school was a nightmare, in the sense where like I just didn't achieve anything really. I got a few art things, but no one could ever pronounce my name, which is now why my name is Alexi Kruiz. So I have like a four-barreled name, which actually I'm just not going to say it on here because it's not something that. But it basically is like it's like 15 syllables. It's Dutch
Right.
and Greek. It's beautiful, but like it ended up being shortened to Yo.
Oh, we want to hear it now.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know, but it's okay. So I'll say the Joanna Krausenha is the two, and then Alexi is in the middle. So Joanna Alexia Krausenha Pitsilu.
Oh,
So it's
beautiful.
it's really beautiful. An absolute nightmare for someone with ADHD to like read that and write it when
Yeah.
I couldn't concentrate anyway. So it'd be like write your name on the paper, and I'd be like ah. So you know, leaving secondary school and going to college was just incredible, being able to feel a bit more like you could create the version of yourself that you wanted. And again, I was still a little nightmare. Like I just quite attention seeking sometimes, but like not really. I think I was masking that actually I wanted peace and I wanted comfort and love, but instead, like, and I remember going into a lesson that wasn't mine and almost like starting an argument with someone that was in there who later ended up being my best friend and my first partner and Tom, and the first person to really show me love, which was like just a best friend. It wasn't about you having to be something or someone or do something or be chaotic or, you know, everyone that I was hanging out with before, like drink was just there for some reason. I just really see it now. And I didn't have friends because what I wanted to do was have deep chats or listen to music or hyper focus or talk about passions in like great detail. So we spent hours and hours just walking around and talking and just, I was so inspired by the passion of him making music. And I remember going sober and starting hairdressing. And I kind of knew, and I turned, I must have turned 18 because I was working in a bar and I went sober on my 18th birthday and I studied hairdressing and I qualified. And it was the first time I'd done this. And it was the most incredible thing. I'd built a rapport back up with my mum. And by this point, we weren't talking. I was in a wonderful relationship with Tom, but it was rocky because if I ever drank, that's when it would be rockier, or we were teenagers as well. It just is what it is. And we stayed best friends, but broke. We went separate ways because of my hairdressing, and his band got really big. And he comes back in the story a little bit later. I'm just going to do a little cough. Um, and I can feel my throat is just like, oh, like talking about these
Yeah, it
things, but
closes up, doesn't it? Yeah.
it's so real,
Well, when you say you went sober at 18, the bit that
Mm,
you haven't covered is like how old were you when you first started drinking, and then by the time you was 18, what did your
mm.
relationship with booze look like?
So in those moments, I think I was looking for a release, and I
Mm,
think it must have been 14, 15.
mm,
And this was like secondary school, meeting older people. And when I went to my dad's, I believe, and I ended up being out on the streets late. And I met
yeah,
this one girl who she'd already drank a lot from the age of 13. And I seemed to do this thing where I used to magnet people who were like really bad influences, but I follow them rather than listening to myself.
yeah,
And it's because I thought love was chaos. I thought love was like high frequency entertainment. Like this girl would even say to me, like, "Oh, why are you wearing that?" And I'd be like, "Oh, she's saying that because she loves me. I better change." It
Yeah.
just so then I was drinking to fit in. I was drinking to be cool because I think I just thought I was a loser all the time.
Mm.
Um, and because chaos felt calm, I would drink, but I felt like I would always share and drink. So it didn't feel particularly problematic then, but I'm 100% sure it was. Like the situations I was getting into, um, what it was doing to my body, I'm sure, and the amount I was drinking was awful. And the people I was hanging around with. And then, like I say, I meet Tom, and that is less. But now I think about it, I think that I brought that into the relationship a bit in the sense where I'd be like, let's have one, or let's have some while we're at my dad's house. But I think we were all doing it at that point. So it wasn't necessarily myself being a bad influence. I think it just was so there. It
Mm.
was everywhere. It was, you know, house parties and just it was escape. It was just escape of being a teenager and not understanding how to process like emotions. There was so much squished in at that point.
And not really knowing who you were.
Yeah, not
So,
at all.
and
Just
alcohol gives you an identity, doesn't it? Because you kind of fit in then with
yeah,
shapeshift around people.
totally. And I was trying to save people, I think, now I look at it. Like I always had people staying at my dad's. I was always picking up all the like, people that weren't doing great. There was definitely some times when I like drank too much to black out, and had to be picked up off the floor by my dad. And there was my mum calling all the time, she was just knowing that I was just being insane. And she definitely, was still drinking at the time. So I think I was just mirroring, I was
Mm.
just mirroring cope. And she hated my stepmom. My dad and her weren't getting on. She was still away from her family. You know, there was just so much conflict, and I was just this black sheep of the family with tattoos and crazy hair. And so going sober at 18, I was like, I have to prove that I am something, and it was actually my manager at Claire's Accessories who I started cutting hair at my dad's house for a fiver, a packet of cigarettes, or 6 cans of like cider or beer. So I would like trade it for the booze
Yeah, yeah.
to do people's hair, and I was doing all these crazy haircuts and stuff, and and then I would use the money to like smoke or drink. So it didn't last that long, the being sober, but I got the qualification, and then I ended up going into a really big brand, and went from junior stylist to like going to London and teaching or like being part of like a higher group and getting an award. And alcohol ramped up a lot then because it was just that was the social thing. That's what you did. You went out with your teams and you got drunk, and I was absolutely outrageous. I remember like I wore this outfit that I made, which was like one leg and one arm. So I had one leg out and one arm out and heels and this huge high ponytail. I wanted to make a dress out of hair, and my boss said no. And I just, I would just get so drunk. And there was like an event I went to for a really big brand as well, where I got sent on my own to like represent. And I actually missed most of the beginning of the party because I ended up getting invited to an Indian wedding next door, and this was up north in the Hilton. And I went and got really drunk at a wedding, and then turned up really late, and ended up just being wild, like going on stage, dancing on tables, like speaking to some of the educators. And God, like I look back at it now, and it's just like screaming for help. It's like, notice me, like,
Yeah.
I am something. And it's like, it just never had to be like that, but it just so was as a coping mechanism. neurodivergency, dysregulation, therapy, things like that weren't around at all. It was just, you just had to get on with it. And or you were seen as like charismatic and hilarious. You were almost applauded for
Yeah.
being the crazy one, right?
Yeah.
So everyone was just like, ha ha ha, that's Yo, like Yo just does crazy hair and is crazy. And I was living, by this point, I'd moved into a couple's house, and they drank. Oh my God, they drank, they DJ'd, they fought. I was right back at home, it just felt like the same thing. And I've had two big poignant points in my life, which I'm going to go into the first one now, which were where the C word comes in, the big C. My mum gets stage 4 cancer, and at this point, my career is like on this teetering point of like amazing. I'm obviously self-sabotaging with the alcohol as well on one part of it. So it's exactly like we were talking about. It's this amazing high, but also I'm crashing low all the time, almost to give myself what I'm used to, which is this dysregulation, and survival is how I'd lived my whole life in between it all. And she'd always told me, and this was like, she says things and she doesn't mean them, I know it. She said, one day I'll get sick and you'll see. And this is the power of how we can create our existence. She gets stage 4 cancer, and I am in shock. I leave this flat, this party flat. Thank God. I've just realized the flat didn't have any windows either. It was a basement. It was awful. It'd be 6 a.m. and we'd never know it. But I get saved from my mum getting stage 4, I believe. And my dad rents a flat near his. We move her in there, and I become her half carer. And it's the darkest days of my life. She's drinking every day. She's smoking every day. She's screaming at me saying that I gave her the cancer. And it was really hard. She was like suffering, and it's all the things that she hadn't dealt with, and now I see it is actually people who are like traumatized. She didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know how to love. She came here at 14, a teenager from a war-torn country. She didn't have her family to teach her love. She met a man that didn't love her. She then tries to love her children with what tools? She then gets ill. And actually, I'm so thankful because it brought us together. So I come in and I have to just witness this insanity. And obviously, I'm drinking more than I ever have done in my life through this. So when I have a weekend off, if someone's coming to like help, my brother's there as well, bless him. But he isolates quite a lot. So he was there, but he was a bit isolated. And I think I joined like a BMX crew or something. So I'm just BMXing around, smoking weed. Like my nickname was Yo Hole because my name was Yo and I had a vagina. Oh, hate it.
Lovely.
Now, awful, right? Awful. Like now I think about it, just all of it was just chaos and crass and just like just a movie that you're just going, no, like no, and I'm falling off the bike and hurting myself and getting drunk and being in ridiculous situations. I then make best friends with a guy who's also an addict. And he's like crystal meth addict. And this friendship started because I met him at the party house. God, I'm just realizing this now. And he's a gay guy that was into chemsex, which would mean he would disappear for days and you'd never know where he was. Anyway, so that's my life at this point. Who am I? Where is my like career and like friendships really? I'm just in this chaos
How
of
old was
like,
you at this point?
so this is I must be like 21,
Oh, really?
21, something like that. So mum gets better, and I moved to London because obviously, why would I not then heal myself? Let's add something else into the mix. So I move in with the addict best friend in London because something happened at my job where I used a bit of hair color and they used me as an example. And they said that I stole from them, which I didn't. There was, I think I used like £5 or less of color to dye a friend's fringe. And I've spoken about it to the boss. He's really lovely. And it was to be made an example of for the future. And me being chaos, I was just like, F you, I'm out of here, stuff this. Part of me wanted to break free from
Yeah.
the family. I just wanted my own life. I wanted to succeed in hairdressing. It's what I love. It's my passion is helping people feel good about themselves. And still at this point, I didn't realize I was ADHD, or is it ADHD? But I don't know what ADHD means. I just know that I'm sensitive to light and sound.
Yeah.
So instead of me being like looking after my needs, I'm chasing the chaos. So I'm now in London, and now I look at this, again, and this would happen every time. If I chose my life, so I moved to London, I'm living with this addict, and I move into a shop where everyone is drinking all the time. I get made a key holder in 2 weeks. I work 3 different hairdressing jobs. I methodically eat a certain thing every day. It's like this dopamine fixation. I go to bed at a certain time. I watch a certain show. I suddenly then get this routine. I stop drinking again. I walk everywhere. I save every penny. I start doing really, really well again because I'm not focusing on the escapism part of it. I suddenly realize, yeah, this is what I'm really into. And then I meet a guy, and he's an addict. And I met him in Brighton when my mum was poorly. He kind of latched on a little bit when I moved in with my bestie in London. And instead of ending it with him, which I should have done, shoulda, coulda, woulda, I move in with him back to Brighton. So I go back to Brighton again, and he ends up being a nightmare and cheating on me because he works a lot. He's like a musician. I then end up dating another addict, wow, who lives on a boat. So I'm there and I'm working in another shop called Damage. And at this point, Damage was half bar, half hairdressers, and everyone is drinking. There's drinking during the day, after parties. I'm now dating one of the BMXers because obviously that's where I should have been. Is like I'm just getting rid of any chance of succeeding, any chance. Just chaos, absolute chaos.
Self-sabotaging all the time.
Totally, like around people who don't really care about anything apart from living for the weekend, like earn the money, smoke the cigs, go to the rock band. Um, and I had so much in me that I knew that I wanted to create and do, but instead I just ended up helping the partner I was with help him build his business. And I was helping the business that I was in rather than my own. So that all blows up, of course. Like that, where was that going to go apart from being blown up? But the most beautiful and sad thing, and this is where it gets sad again, C word number 2, is me and Tom stayed best friends through all of this. And he was like a real friend through it all because we would have chats and he would always get his hair cut with me ever since. I actually learned to cut hair on his hair and his bandmates, and he would always say things like, "Are you happy though?" Or like, "Oh, like, you know, you're such a light. You're such a shining light." And he gets really ill. And my boyfriend at the time can't handle it. Jealous, I think, but it's the addict talking. He's just whatever. I leave. I move in with my mum. I was working for a guy at that point who also was drinking a lot. So I'd moved from damage to somewhere else, and this guy was taking my wages and telling me he was going to pay me back so I could do my taxes, and he was spending it on alcohol. So I had to move back with my mum, get the parents of the guy to give me the money back. And at this point, Tom was getting more and more poorly. And I just disappeared. I just had to be there as much as I could. And I ended up quitting hairdressing. And I was with him as much as I could be. And he didn't make it.
So sorry.
Uh,
Take your time.
yeah. And he was already sober. And I remember when we were first together, I was vegan, and he would always like kind of not mock me, but be like, haha, you and your lentils. And the crazy thing is he was so conscious of so much health, and it just sent me into, such a space of losing like a best friend, and real love. That he was the person that taught me love, and he re-taught me love again. um, and instead of drinking as much, I think I smoked weed, but there was still alcohol. And then the alcohol ramped up again once I started hairdressing again, which was in a really beautiful eco shop. It had its dramas, but where doesn't when it's a hairdresser's, it's always lots of characters. And I realize now I would always drink to fit in, because I wanted to be this high sensory life of the party person, but actually I'm very low sensory, and really like things to be love, um and not in a chaos way. And anyway, I leave this hairdresser's, and I start working for, God, it's such a blur, because at this point, oh, I know what happened. It gets dark. Warning. um So I'm working for this hairdresser's, and I'm drinking a lot. By this point, it's Tom leaves in 2016. By this point, it's 2019, and I go on a tour, like a Eastern European trip tour with a best friend. And I'm drinking and smoking a lot by this point. I haven't grieved. I went to some therapy that was given to me by the hospice, and the main thing she brought up was that I couldn't even admit that he wasn't here anymore. So I would be like talking as if he was still here. Um, which now, now I look back, I think every single thing I'd been through, I just suppressed. So it was every emotion, I just drank and got on with it. So I go out with a friend of mine on the Eastern European tour to like live it up, and, party and have something to tell my clients when I get back, la, la, la. And we go to this festival, and I get attacked. Um, and I get attacked, and the guy says that he attacks me because I'm wearing a skirt. And I fought back. Um, and it was a whole thing with the police. I come back from holiday, and I just remember coming home, and by this point I'm living with Tom's mum, who, bless her, is, having a glass of wine to cope. So I'm still around, alcohol all the time. And I remember just getting home and just instantly writing into YouTube, TED Talks. What do I do? What does a woman do? What does a person do if you've been attacked? What do you do? And this person comes up and she's like, talk about it. Don't suppress it. So I say to work, and my boss at the time says, I think you should have spoken to me first. It's actually quite triggering for me. And I was thinking, okay, like I get that. But like, how is anything going to change if I don't talk about all these things? I'm just suppressing them and getting drunk all the time. So I leave and I start working for the most amazing barbershop, Jimmy's Barbershop in Brighton. The sweetest men I've ever met in my life. I shaved all my hair off. I got a big tattoo on my head for protection. I went to the doctors. I went and I just knew that this had to be like a big change. And I knew I had to do something. So sober came back, but this time as a monk. So not actually as a monk, but head shave, tattoo, pale colors. I was like tattooing in this beautiful barber shop. I moved into a flat on my own because I saved all the money because I was sober, and I didn't date. Like I didn't even text anyone. I didn't flirt. I didn't eat sugar. I didn't have caffeine. I didn't smoke. Like I was this pure little thumb, this little like raw being. And I did talks about being attacked, and I learned a lot about ADHD and being sensitive and my queerness. And I started taking testosterone because I had a crazy thing with my hormones, but also I thought maybe I'm not a woman. Maybe like I'm, I just I lost the plot but found the plot, if that makes sense. And then lockdown happens. God.
God, bloody lockdown.
Lockdown happens, and I'm in this beautiful flat. There's 16 mirrors in this flat. It's a big studio flat, and I have no hair, and I'm this raw, this raw little naked thing. And I start trying to save people again, don't I? So I let people in that have their own things, and I end up searching for chaos because I don't have the community anymore that I'd found, who were, queer, neurodiverse, sober, like people who are like love. I then find chaos again. So I meet these people who have a recording studio, and there's cocaine, there's drugs. I start drinking tequila. I then have friends from London come and stay with me. I go to this recording studio. I meet these people. I've never met these people in my life. Suddenly I'm friends with this group of people. Do you remember lockdown was lifted for like a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
There was this pub, right, that we would go to, and then one of their friends got stabbed. So me being me, I invite all the people who are friends. There's police. I invite them around my house. I'm cooking them roast potatoes. Everyone's like off their nut. I'm just there being like, don't worry, I'll make like insanity, like absolute insanity. I just think all I've ever wanted to do is look after and care for people. I've just wanted to love and be loved. So that goes turbo, lockdown. I then end up having to move into a big squat because I can't afford the rent and I can't do hair. And I'm obviously, you know, not now in my regimented, like, let's look after myself phase. I'm now like off my absolute chops on chaos and hanging around with people that I don't even like and probably don't even know me. And I move into this guardianship, thank God. And this was because I started working at another hairdresser's owned by a guy that had come from Bristol, and he'd curated a group of us. And it was actually beautiful. It was lovely to be in a group of people passionate about hair. I moved into a guardianship with 40 people. and there's me. And a lot of people are dealing drugs. There's a lot of alcohol and whatnot about. I um, I end up making friends, obviously, with everyone there and being in this hairdresser's. I think also at that point as well, I moved to another hairdresser's that had one in London. So then I was in London and in Brighton, and I went sober again for another period of time. And this was through a friend of mine, Steph, who introduced me to techno. So I started going to these all night techno parties sober with her. And she taught me love again. She just accepted who I was. At this point, I was still on testosterone. So I think testosterone happened after lockdown. I had short hair and still terrified, still hadn't dated, still was like scared of the world, completely sober. So then, yeah, then the alcohol and stuff started again. Oh, it's trying to think about when it all pairs up is crazy.
Mm.
Um, anyway, so the sober wonderfulness at the techno, gorgeous. That then dissipates because I decide I'm going to open my own business. At this point, I realize from education, from actually speaking to a lot of people in London, in the dance, in just in those industries, like those spaces, there's a lot of people, if that makes sense. And I was like, you can what? So I realized that I was probably one of those people where, like, I love chaos, but actually, if the chaos is like controlled, if I'm going to like a techno event and I can have like sunglasses, ear things, I'm dressed really comfy, like I'm around people that get it, I'm around people that, like, I don't know, just got it. That was great. And through that, I started my ADHD diagnosis. I opened my own low sensory, gender affirming hairdressers, and it was for people to just be. It was just the same jazz, the same smell. I had this like steam thing, I had a dark mirror. Everything was like really controlled. So, this is where like chaos control, like you also can't control everything. So I made this controlled space. Everything was controlled. I wore the same clothes every day. And then I live in this guardianship where nothing's controlled. There was people trying to put like they were trying to put like fires on the roof. Like they were like, "Oh, I've got a fire in the garden, but I'm going to put the fire on the roof because like there's a nice roof garden." And everyone was like, "No, no, no." Like it was just insane. It was just full of people who were nuts. And I then meet someone that I just become obsessed with. And my hormones are all over the place. My identity's all over the place. I'm having this spiritual awakening, the monk thing that happened. I'm then like, maybe I'm a witch. I don't know. Like living with 40 people and working alone was a lot. We all had these little rooms in the guardianship. It was like it was an old hospital and I worked in a church. So the old hospital was a Christian hospital and the church was where I worked. And I become obsessed with this guy and I like fall in love, but it's like obsession in love. And he drinks and there's drugs there. And I'm like, I project everything onto him. But we're talking everything. Like, I decide that he's going to die all the time because he's Tom now, because he reminds me of Tom because it's
Yeah,
love. And all
yeah.
the other guys that I was dating, it wasn't love. So I'm like, oh, he's just going to die. And he's drinking and taking drugs. So that's the problem. He's the problem, even though I was drinking. Um, and then, bless him, he moves to London and says to me, come with me. And I'm like, no, I just decide that the love is suffocating because I've never been loved before like that. And it ends. rightfully so, because I was being insane. And he had his own things he needed to do. And I remember being very strong in this. I said, I can't be with anyone until I sort this out. Like, I need to sort out my grief. I need to sort out my trauma with my family. I need to sort out the fact that I'm running away from everything and I'm destroying everything. I need to get sober. And so I realized that that's, again, it's the same loop. I've like done this thing. I've opened a business. I couldn't cope. I shut the business. I have 6 months off. I start really intense, proper therapy. I speak to the doctors. I have therapy with them. I come off of did I come off of the testosterone? I think so. And I get a message from the company I'm with now. And they're like, we've heard about your work, your low sensory work. We would love to offer you a space in our first ever hairdressers. And it's with Lush. And it's a low sensory, beautiful experience, weighted blankets, beautiful lights. And it was the day I put away everything of mine in storage. So I'm now doing therapy and all this jazz. I'm now realizing that I'm comfortable just being who I am. I don't need to take anything to change, but also the ADHD help is going to be great because there must have always been something with dopamine and craving the chaos and never, but also there was hyper focus in between bits. So I get this opportunity. My therapist goes to me, please send me you signing the contract because I believe in you. And I was like, great. And again, it's love. I'm being shown love. It's not someone having a go. It's someone being like, look,
Yeah.
you know, because my parents weren't able to do that. So, for example, I'm saying to my parents this job, and they would go, "Oh, I don't know." So they've got fear. Um, so I take the job. I now, because I've taken the job, can move into a flat. So the guardianship we get given our 20 days. You've got to get out in 20 days. In between all this, my stepmom dies, my dad's partner. Bless her. So there's that chaos going on behind the scenes. I get a 2-bed flat, which is where I'm sitting right now, the 2-bed flat. I wanted to get somewhere warm, safe, and cozy to heal. So I get this flat, and luckily I got a 2-bed because my dad loses the house. So I'm in this new job, sober. I'm getting the ADHD diagnosis, which I'm getting help with my manager because it's a community over there. They look after us. They're wonderful. I have a Pokemon card where it says my needs, and my needs are that I can't concentrate and cut hair if there's loud pop music with like loads of vocals because I just can't cope. I
Yeah. Yeah.
dysregulate. So dad loses his house, the house we grew up in. I have a 2-bed flat. I have to take everything from my childhood into this flat. Dysregulated me completely. I find him somewhere to live. I open a Vinted account. I start drinking again. And it's to self sabotage. I know it. It's because I can't cope and I'm not asking for support. And I hadn't got my ADHD support by this time. I'd stopped therapy. I'd isolated myself. There was a few people at work that I think were like very neurotypical, let's say, and I didn't fit in again. I felt like I was too sensitive, or I just love work. So when I'm at work, I'm doing work. I'm not here to socialize as much. I'm very nice and sweet, but I actually love my job. Like, I love it. I love doing hair. I love making people feel good. I'm really specific about customer care. So there was a lot of friends, there was a friendship group there that didn't necessarily put the customers first. And I found that really difficult. And it's all excuses. I look at it now. So anyway, so then I start drinking to try and socialize with the group. I open a Vinted account, and I drink to make the Vinted account doable, to sell all these things that I've now suddenly acquired. And it's all from when I was 16. So it was bringing up the past and stuff with, like, just stuff with all all of it was there, like all the diaries, all the photos, like just the grief, like all of it just coming up. And I drank so much, and it gets worse every time you go sober and start drinking again. I forgot my higher power. I forgot this whole monk situation I'd had. Still, still haven't been dating by this point. Thank God. Because I was just bringing myself into this, I'm actually really grateful to how everything's happened. And I fall in the bathroom and I hit my face and I have 2 black eyes and blood on my face. I wake up on the floor. And that was the 1st of November last year. And it's giving me chills because I could have died that day. 1,000,000%. I had drank 2 bottles of like orange wine, the trendy orange wine. And I used to drink it out of a tiny little glass. I'd sip it, thinking I was like, whatever, I'm just doing my vintage and drinking wine. No, you're killing yourself. Just ask for help. Jesus.
Yeah.
Just ask for help. And, I nearly die. And it was all, the drinking was all a mask, And going sober was one of the hardest things this time because this was different. And this was different because after that, what's next? What's next from a near-death experience? What is next from a near-death experience? I'll tell you what's next, not coming back. And I thought I had a head injury. I called an ambulance. The women turned up. Oh, they were hilarious. She goes, you're going to be fine, love. You actually just need help. You need help and you need love.
Yeah. Oh, how sweet.
So I get help. I speak to my mum about it because she used to come round mine and we drink together. And that was still avoiding all the things that we've been through, the conversations I'm having with her now about her life, like I had last week over dinner. I would never be having these conversations if I wasn't sober because she doesn't drink around me anymore. Sometimes she'll have a glass, but I don't think anyway, her journey's different. She's doing what she needs to do. But for myself, I now ask for help. I went to the rooms for a bit and I realized it wasn't for me. And I learned a lot from them. But for myself, if I'm surrounded by trauma and other people's trauma, I'm triggered.
Yeah.
I can't hear people's I love with your podcast, it was a huge support to me because there were so many moments where there was even communication about it doesn't have to be through that actually. So really grateful for that. And listening to people, not perfect for me, but having to listen to people all the time and me having to dig things up all the time means that I'm just attached to the issue and I'm attached to that being my personality, and it's not. So in the first 5 months, I was there and it was interesting to see and witness. Then I got my ADHD diagnosis and I started meds, and that was very interesting because they make you feel quite high. So I came off and I'm doing a very low dose now. And that is just because I'm moving and we'll see where that goes. But to be honest, getting support in a regulated manner for me makes more sense. And now what I'm concentrating on and accepting is that I need support. I love my community. My clients are amazing. I have just found real acceptance in who I am as a person, which is that I really love quiet and nature and talking deep about things. Like when people tell me, if someone wants to talk like 25 minutes about how a speaker is made, I'm there.
Oh, bless you.
I have dopamine fixation where I'll eat the same meal all the time. Change really dysregulates me. loud noises dysregulate me. Like if someone is rude to someone in the shop, I can be a bit like, oh, and I've realized this whole time I've just been this very gentle, vulnerable, emo kid.
Mm.
And I've been trying to find loads of external things to change and suppress and shift it. When actually, like, I know the chaos that works for me now. Like, even like talking to you today. So I'm literally in the middle of moving. Like, things are in boxes, there's like stuff everywhere. But I feel great. And that's the chaos I thrive in, is saying yes to things and just fitting it all in there and accepting that it won't be perfect, but how it is perfect. Not destroying myself anymore. Showing up for others because I'm not the only one. I think when you're in addiction, I was just so in victim and self. I was like, oh my God, like I'm terrible. There's something wrong with me. Like if I get more tattoos, I'll be better. Or if I do this to my hair, I'll be better and people will love me. And now I've realized it's like, well, no, get a tattoo if you want one, or like cut a fringe if you want a fringe, or, do things because you want to. It's not about like filling the void with like the ups and downs. It's like, do you want to do it? And I think I never even knew what I wanted. I think I was told so much all the time, you should be, as a daughter, you should be, or and my dad would always get me pink things. He'd be like, as a daughter, I've got you a pink iPhone, or I like the little, what's it called? Oh my God, the one that played music.
iPod.
iPod. And I remember crying. I was like, why does everything have to be pink?
Yeah.
And I've realized that, like, no, I'm just a goth emo person. Like, I
Mm.
fit whatever mold I choose to, and I don't want to need anything. But now I'm realizing that needing support isn't a weakness. Needing
Mm.
support is like, we all need community and support.
Yeah.
And finding your podcast was support. um, the sober community, how like a lot of us are like, you know, spectrum, we're on this amazing spectrum. I'm actually doing a talk, little plug, in Brighton I'm pretty sure it's the 13th of November at an event called Neuro Curious, which is a space for people who, you know, just want to know more about it. And I'm going to be talking about sensory things with hairdressing and myself. So I can only wear cotton clothes. I have to wear a hat when I go outside because it's too bright, or like I'm going to get tinted glasses. But sometimes glasses they block. So imagine like if all my life I needed to wear like nice soft cotton and lights can feel a bit bright. And if you're not allowing yourself to know those needs, you're just like,
Yeah.
you're in I must have just been like a fly that had been shaken in a glass or something. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, like,
You're
or when
getting
a
to know
cat,
yourself and what you really need, aren't you?
yeah.
That's
And
the thing.
emotions.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't think I've cried so much this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, you bottle it all up, don't you? And you carry it around with you. And like, oh, it sounds like having a massive rucksack over your shoulders, and it gets heavier and heavier throughout your life. And when we
Yeah.
drink, we don't know what to do with that, because we're just avoiding everything all the time. We're just putting life on pause, aren't we? Every single day, we're just in that rotation of
Mm.
the hamster wheel of doom, not dealing with anything. And when we stop, all of a sudden, it's like buses coming along, and it's like, bloody hell, there's this,
Mm.
and then there's that. And what do I do? What do I do? And this is
Yeah.
where the work is, the emotional sobriety. But you're celebrating a year.
Yes.
So after that horrible fall that could have ended in disaster, you've completely turned your life around.
100%. And New flat,
Yeah. So where you
which
live? Still in Brighton?
still in Brighton, but now instead of having a two bed, I'm now downsizing to a one bed, which means in the next couple of days, leading up to the first, which is when I get the keys, I will only have the belongings that align to who I am. Everything
Beautiful.
else is being gotten rid of, and everything from my past. I've actually got a tiny storage unit because I thought it's too much pressure to do it all at once. And I
Yeah.
got advice from someone. So this is why talking to people is so good.
Yeah.
A guy from a cleaning place who's a friend called Adam from Bang Tidy. He was like, "I've got an idea, mate.
Yeah.
When you have hoarder tendencies and it's about emotional hoarding,
Mm.
put your emotions somewhere out of your life."
Yeah.
And you can go and revisit that and work on it like therapy. I was like, that is genius
Yeah.
because it's the same thing. It's the amount of little tidbits I have
Yeah.
is me holding on, or like say like smoking for some people I quit 5 maybe 6 years ago, but you're it's a little it's putting your emotions into something else, whereas if you have less distraction and you're vulnerable and you're real, life mirrors that back,
Mm.
which is so
Absolutely.
cool.
Oh my God, what a beautiful, beautiful story. And you've told it so eloquently. Been transfixed to you. Honestly, you've got such a lovely, calming voice as well.
Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful that you've shared it with us all and celebrating your year. It seems to me like you've finally found the magic solution to your joy and happiness.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
acceptance.
it is.
It's acceptance. As soon as you don't accept, and this is anyone and everything, because love just is. And I think when you think, or when you grew up thinking that chaos is love and up and down is love,
Mm,
that's where you get a bit lost. But everything is just, everything's there for us.
yeah,
Like even in my story, those two really horrendous pivotal points in my life saved me in a
yeah,
way.
yeah. It's about reframing. It's about accepting things, and it builds resilience for later on. And I've had that in my life as well. At the time, it's the end of the world, and what am I going to do? And that. But when I look back now, it's actually one door shuts, another one opens. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing this now. And it's all a journey. It's all a lesson. We're
Mm,
just souls passing through, aren't we? And we got to pick up
totally.
lessons and it's so important to reframe things and be positive and embrace the tough times and the good times, and I'm so pleased for you, honestly, and
Thank
good
you.
luck with your talk. I'm sure it'll be absolutely amazing.
Thank
And
you.
I'm always down in Brighton. I mean, you won't know, but I'm moving and
Yes.
I'm hoping to move to Hove, so
Great.
Hove actually, so I can see you. I'd love to meet you. I
Yeah,
think
I'd
it'd be
absolutely
brilliant.
love that.
Yeah, yeah. So all the best and thank you so, so much for joining us. Your story's incredible and
Thank you.
congratulations on your year as well.
Thank you so much. And so much love to everyone out there on whatever part of your journey it is. It's perfect. I know it doesn't feel it, but it is perfect.
It's all meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. All the
Thank
very best.
you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.